Spotty gotta do. What?
Welcome back, it's your boy Japanese Tutor, back at it again with another opening introduction, the most popular openings. This time we're going to cover stuff starting from the Kali opening. Hope you guys know that. It was made famous by Edward Colley. And let's do this. It's lesson time, guys. So, I'm going to read right from the text, and then I'm going to give you my opinions right after I do. So, perhaps the most popular amateur opening, the Kali, named after the Belgian champion Edgar Colley, and not the dog, starts solidly fusing easy to remember and to the point moves with the intention of turning aggressive once White's king is safely castled. So after d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, e3. White intends to play for e3, e4, which frees up the bishop on c1, gets on this diagonal here, by placing his pieces on posts that control the e4 square. So one typical sequence is e6, bishop d3, c5, and just you play c3 after they play c5. Knight c6, knight bd2. Again, we're eyeing this square with as many pieces as possible so we can make this break happen. Knight bd2, and now bishop e7, castles and castles. When now that White has castled, the first player is ready to play directly for his central advance. So he said that play might proceed like this. So in the Kali, it's actually pretty interesting because you can have two different plans. You can actually play for c4 as well, but you can play either queen here, depending on where their pieces are to try to advance e4 or c4. So very interesting ideas in the Kali. So queen e2, queen c7, and they said black is threatening to beat White to the punch with e6, e5. That's what they want to play. D captures c5, bishop captures c5, e4. Now White's pieces are all aimed at the black king. Right, where our knights are coming in there. E4, let's see, boom, boom, e4, e5 is threatened. So let's say you play bishop d7, then e5, knight g4. Well, obviously this is a threat. King captures h7, knight check, followed by the queen taking wherever he moves. Queen taking. Okay. But yeah, he doesn't have to play like that. So instead of bishop d7, d captures e4. Knight captures e4, kind of frees up the bishop now. This bishop here. And the subtle reply, h6 is black's new best answer to e4. So he should play h6 instead of d captures on e4. Is the new answer. Okay. Since the Kali is not very effective against the king's Indian defense, many players combine this system with the boring opening system that we covered. Okay, let's move on. Now, I recommend that you do your research because here he doesn't go over the Kali system where they play b3. So actually, that's another system entirely. Let's say like this. Let's say we're gonna play the same moves. Oops. Like this, or c5. You can actually, I think in this case, you can even play b3 and put this here and then castle. And then the goal is maybe you can play c4 as well. Instead of having to play c3, c4, you can play c4 in one go, and you have a pretty solid position with almost no work. And this is the b3 Zuckertor system, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So just something for you guys to know back at home. Yeah, Jack. Let's go. So the Czech Manone. Now we're gonna listen to. Actually, the Czech Manone is actually really, really fun. So I'm glad that this is in this book. This interesting opening leads to close play that should prove instructive for either side to play. So the position is d4, knight f6, c4, c5, push, e5, e4, and bishop e7. And allows for a minimum minimum of plans for both sides. Okay, I think he's missing something there, but white may play for queenside space via b2, b4, or for kingside space with f2, f4, right? Because whenever you're looking at a position, you have to look where your pawns can break, so to say, so that where they can take and then open a file. So these are the two pawn breaks in the position, whereas black also has this pawn break as well, right? And that's where your pawns are pointing to, they say. And here we have a solid structure where we can attack from either side. And if your opponent attacks on this side, generally you want to attack on this side. But make sure that they're not faster. If so, stop them and then continue with your plan. Okay. Okay, and he says that black must try the same ideas and try to gain space. The typical sequence is bishop d3, castles, castles, knight g. Is there a knight on c3 already? Oh, knight c3. Knight c3, d6. Then he plays knight g to e2 and knight e8. Yeah, knight e8. Preparing this. Development is not very important when the center is closed. So castle, g6, and g5. Bishop g5. This is the bad. Wait, no. g6 is one plan, or bishop g5. So the plan here is you notice that all of the black's pawns are on dark squares, right? And that means that your dark squared bishop is the bad bishop. So you want to trade off your dark square bishop via here, even though you have g6. So you can play here. Wait, so you can do this plan, or you can do this plan, where you play g6 to strengthen f5. So if bishop g5, so there's a common thing here. There's a theme here. Let's say they play like this, and then f5. If they take, what piece do you recapture with? And for me, the right answer is, and actually, I think he's gone over this in his other book called the How to Reassess Your Chess, the 4th edition, that you take with the pawn to control the important e4 square. Threaten this, and white should have black should have equal game, but it's just the right way to take. Because if, let's say, bishop takes, now we just can do whatever we want. Knight g3 follows. Maybe I'm going to play bishop h6. But with the pawns there, now you have to kind of worry. So you can still play bishop h6, but now you have some play, right? What book am I using? I'm using. I'm sorry. So WSK, I'm teaching openings. Tego, the colleague, Czech Manone. Yep. Thank you so much, Face Chess, for gifting a sub, and Tego, welcome to the Chess Masters in Training. So let's see if this updates. It was supposed to update. Maybe it didn't. Maybe I have to manually do it. But thank you for subscribing. So what book am I using? I'm using the Stillman book. It's the complete chess something. The rook. You're supposed to take with the rook. Not in this case. And maybe we can. Maybe we can play some later on. All right, cool. So let's keep going. Ooh, I mean, we already know this. We know this. He doesn't have to tell us this one, because if you've been watching the videos, you already know. And if you haven't, then you need to get on. So d4 f5, the Dutch defense. Black's first move makes his initial intentions clear. He will try hard to gain the control of the e4 square. Other ideas are eventual, the e7, e5 advance. The possible kingside play based off of f7, f5 that gained him some area. So maybe he's going to attack this way. White will counter black's plans by trying to play for queenside space, or by playing e2, e4. The latter idea is critical because of the opening e file that might easily lead to the unveiling of central weaknesses. Thank you for the follow. Thank you so much for the follow. So I need to calm down. I'm sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So g3. Also interesting is knight c3, but this is the best play. And bishop g2. And now black usually chooses between the Leningrad variation or the Stonewall variation. The Leningrad variation is g6, knight f3, bishop g7, castles, and then c4. Castles, c4, then d6. With the idea of this break here. And the Stonewall, which we should know very well, with e6, knight f3, d5, castles, bishop d6, c4, c6, b3. If they play b3, we know we have to play queen e7. So I'm not even going to look at the text. Let me see. Yeah, queen e7. Playing for a firm hold of the e4 square and solid central control. Of course, both of these systems have drawbacks. The Leningrad variation creates a weakness on e6, and the other one, where's the Dutch Stonewall? The Stonewall is a hold on e5. If you want to learn the Leningrad, I think Hikaru Nakamura was one of the best people who played it. So definitely look at his repertoire and look how he plays it, and then do your take it and modify it if you want, or just play it as is. If it's good enough for Naka, it's good enough for me. Okay, that's how I say it. If I see a Bobby Fischer game where he has all these wins and he has a lot of expertise and he has really cool moves. If it's good enough for Bobby, it's good enough for me. Just saying there, right there. Say he's gonna raid you, but didn't. Just saying. No problem, brother. It is not a problem. Let's go over the next one. And the next one, it's called the English opening, and you probably know this already. The positional weapon has been used at one time or another by most of the world's strongest grandmasters. C4. I think there was a Bobby Fischer game, where Bobby Fischer always played E4, right? And you always played E4, and then he decided in this one game to play C4, and his opponent resigned because he just wasn't prepared for C4. White lays the claim to an important D5 square. He will back this up with knight C3 and developing his other pieces. I like to play the English opening by fianchettoing my bishop. And I do this maybe like this, play my pawns on D3, and then attack on the queen side. That's what I like to do in the English. There are some symmetrical variations that you can play. You can play for center control first. Sometimes you don't have to fianchetto the bishop, but most of the time you do. C5. Oh, and if they play C5, which is a symmetrical variation, then honestly, there's a symmetrical variation that where you can copy your opponent until move 7 and be okay. Black ignores White's lust for D5 and makes his own overtures toward the D4 square. Both sides can then follow two of basic plans. White can try for some central advantage with D2, D4 by developing all of his pieces and then playing D2, D4. So like, let's say, let's see, 3, here, 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 here. Castles, and then D4. After you develop all of your pieces, of course. You can play whatever you want here. There's many moves. You can play D5. You can play B6 here. You can play C captures D4. There are many moves here. You can play E5 for it. So let's go back. You can play C4 and you can play E5. Now this is almost like a reverse Sicilian, except you're up a move. Okay. And so play might turn out like this: knight C3, knight C6, G3, G6, bishop G2, bishop G7, knight F3, D6, D3, F5, castles, knight F6. And here it just seems like, look at where the pawns are pointing, right? It just seems like I want to play this, right? Get all my pieces over to that side. That's how it just looks, right? Because the pawns are pointing this way. His pawns are pointing this way. They're pointing, right? So note that white prepares B2, B4 with rook B1 instead of A3. So you want to play rook B1 in this case. And actually, there was a really, really good player. His name is Yasser Sarawan. So if you like these English ideas, and it's very easy to play, honestly, I recommend that you watch his games as well. Amazing instructor, first of all. He's an amazing instructor. His teaching style is amazing. But he was a great player as well. So I recommend that you watch some of his content and watch some of his games or look over some of his games. And he says that this is just his plan was to play rook b1, boom, boom, and make this bishop a monster. Very easy plans. All right, and he says that note that white prepares b2, b4 with rook b1 instead of a3, and he says why. The tactical reason that b2, b4 loosens up the g7, a1 diagonal and places the rook from danger, so relieves this pin because now the rook is not on that diagonal. The positional reason for placing the b5 pawn on b5 for c7, c6. Okay. So he's saying that even after this, don't play a3. Because if you play a3, you have this move. Wait, maybe not now, but maybe. Maybe after like a bishop d1, right? And this is also space gaining for him, but maybe rook. So instead of playing a3 first, which is not necessarily good because you probably want this rook here to play here. He said that just play rook b1 first, and that's just more immediate, and it brings a rook into this line, which you want to attack anyways. Especially if they play like a c7, c6 later after you kick away the knight. Because that's where that's a file that you want open. So why not just put the rook on the file beforehand? Okay. Next one. Oh no! What happened to the goal? Somebody follow quick. Change it. So the four knights opening has been around for 400 years, and positional in nature, white seeks simple development before embarking on any adventures. And four knights is what a lot of beginners play. It's not saying that's a bad opening, but e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight c6. Oh, sorry, knight f6. Yeah, in his book he has knight c6 twice, but I'm pretty sure he means knight f6, and then bishop b5. And I think the common move here is actually to play bishop b5, the symmetrical variation. I think that's like the #1 move recommended. So black usually chooses between two main continuations. Black keeps the symmetrical vein by playing bishop b4, okay? And the key structure comes that after bishop b4, castles, d3, d6, bishop catches c3, bishop g5, b catches c3, b catches c3. White enjoys the two bishops, which may or may not turn out to be an advantage. Wow, interesting. And he has some pressure thanks to the unpleasant pin against the f6 knight. Okay. Since h6, bishop h4, g5 gives black a weakness, there has to be another way to break it. So queen e7, rook e1, knight d8, maybe playing here, followed by knight e6, and is known as the Metger unpin. That's the unpin. That's a technique to unpin your pieces without moving pawns. That's interesting. That's actually something I didn't know the name of. I knew the idea, but I didn't know the name of it. And sometimes when you know the name of stuff, it's easier to attribute it to a technique. Like you can know the technique, but not know the name, so you have to come up with the idea. But once you know the idea's name, then it's just like, oh, that's just an idea, and it comes to your brain much quicker. So now you guys know Metger's unpin. And the game now revolves around this, the following questions. What will prove stronger, white's bishops or black's knights? Can black keep the center blocked? A blocked center snuffs out the strength of the bishops. And a very important point is that black must guard the e5 pawn for all he's worth. When white plays d3 to d4, black must never exchange e captures d4, since the resultant fluid center would turn the white bishops into winning monsters. And an eventual e4 to e5, if you do take, will actually lead to a win for white, or a winning position. The other move order that he says on move 4 is a move knight d4. And this is the Rubinstein's idea. The intention is to sacrifice a pawn in exchange for a lead in development and very active pieces. The best moves are acknowledged to be bishop a4, bishop c5. And let's say you play c6 instead. Then that's also playable. c6 is also playable in this position. That's what he was saying, sorry. Bishop c5. Knight captures e5. Castles. Knight d3. Bishop b6. When the active black position and the fact that the queenside pieces are like entombed by the knight on d3, right? This is pretty bad. Has led to good practical theoretical results for the second player being black. This is very nice. And that's it for today's lesson. Try to review this at home, and if you have any questions about the positions, leave a comment down below. If you want more, just go on chessgames.com and look at some of the best players in this line. This line especially has a lot of theory in it, and just putting it to the open explorer, or any chess base that you use or chess engine. I would recommend trying to get a favorite player and playing like them. So let's say your favorite player is Magnus Carlsen. He was playing the London system for a while. Or let's say your favorite player is Nakamura. Adopt his lines, see what he's playing, and then try to emulate him. Emulate success so you can be successful in your games. That's all for today. If you did learn something, consider subscribing so you can learn more in the future. And thank you guys so much for being here. And honestly, oh yeah, we broke 100 subs. We broke 100 subs, guys. Like, thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much, and peace out.